Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Please join me in welcoming Oleg Kamenetsky, who is the IoT product marketing lead at Qualcomm. He'll be demonstrating Qualcomm Aware, which enables building and deploying cloud connected solutions.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out. My name is Oleg Kamenetsky. I'm on the IoT product marketing team at Qualcomm. I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what we're doing to accelerate and simplify the digital transformation of supply chains and beyond. So behind me, what you see is a digital world. It's interactive. And what it represents really is all the different IoT industries that Qualcomm plays in. Now, within all these worlds, we have a lot of different touch points, and we could spend a lot more than 15 minutes on this because the reality is industries and supply chains are complex. But to get started, we're going to click into the asset tracking and fleet management world, where, like I said, you see a lot of touch points. And that's because supply chains are complex. So the work that we're doing in this space, is complex as well because there are a lot of challenges that we have to solve. But what you see is kind of an end-to-end journey. So at the top of the screen, you see a cargo ship coming into port from a transoceanic journey. Once it gets to port, you see a lot of containers there at the yard. From the yard, you have everything from air travel, air transportation there, to road transportation, to rail, warehousing, all the way down to last mile deliveries. So a lot of touch points on this journey, and that's because supply chains, as you know, are complex, which is why it's really hard to create a digital transformation solution that works. It's why there hasn't been one to date. And we know that there's a need for it because the world's cost of inventory distortion is about $2 trillion. Retailers know that they have an inefficiency problem, but three-quarters of retailers have tried to deploy some kind of solution that hasn't worked yet, which is why what we're doing to solve it with Qualcomm Aware is so special. So what Qualcomm Aware does is it builds on our chipset technologies that you know from...
You need clear laser.
Oh, thank you. What Qualcomm Aware does is it builds on our chipsets that are in IoT devices and across industries, and it combines technology leadership in the location space, worldwide connectivity, and in close partnership with our software and hardware ecosystem partners, we create devices, not too dissimilar from this one, which combine all those and they connect to the cloud. So what you get is an awareness solution that not only positions your assets, but lets you know the condition of them at all stages of the journey. So, for example, if we talk about fleet tracking and monitoring, this is a story we've seen a lot on the news. We have delays at ports of entries. They're causing unexpected backlogs. And really what it does is create ripple effects downwind for the rest of your operation. So your goods aren't arriving where they're supposed to arrive. Companies can't really plan proactively to do anything about it. But imagine if you had Qualcomm Aware. Imagine if you had that proactive positioning and condition monitoring to know if there's going to be a problem ahead of time or while something was in transit, and take corrective action from your dashboard remotely, wherever you may be. And that's exactly what we're trying to solve for. Now, to double click even further into that, if you have a cold chain management use case, say in this example, there's a truck full of vaccines or produce that need to be kept cold at all stages of the journey. Well, the old way is you currently get your boxes, you get your goods, and you realize they're spoiled and it's too late. So now you have to restart, you have to wait for a new shipment to come before you can sell anything. But what if, for example, again, if that's a vaccine shipment, and you know right away that the temperature is getting a little bit too warm, the vaccines are at risk of spoiling. Well, what you can do is you can proactively increase the air conditioning, for example, in the cooling unit, maintain sellable, the integrity of the goods while they're in transit, and you can avoid that surprise at the end where you have to then throw away vaccines. Last estimate I checked, I think the WHO estimates that about 40% of vaccines each year have to be thrown away because they can't guarantee that at all stages of the journey, those vaccines were kept at temperatures to ensure their viability and efficacy. So obviously a big and important use case here. Now, Speaking more broadly about the different components of Qualcomm Aware, positioning and connectivity are two big pieces. Historically, IoT solutions have been cobbled together, and if people have tried to find their own positioning solution, they'd have to go to one vendor. To go to connectivity, they'd have to independently work with carriers across the world to make sure that their devices can roam, to make sure that there are seamless handoffs, and it's really not been an integrated solution. So that's what makes Qualcomm Aware so special. We're combining on the location side a deep history and a lot of investments in Wi-Fi positioning and cell positioning, GNSS. So you have a variety of signal types at your disposal, ensuring that, as that ship is coming to port, it's handing off the GNSS it used over the ocean to maybe a private 5G network at port, to Wi-Fi connectivity in the warehouse. As you're in a rural area, you might use Wi-Fi as well because there's a lot of good signal density and we have a lot of reliable access points that we can use. So that intelligence, that handoff can work in a number of different ways. Now, connectivity is another big portion. So what we've done is, again, we haven't solved the connectivity part ourselves, but we have a lot of good ecosystem partners on the connectivity side. We have agreements with worldwide operators that can basically can integrate with the platform and deliver that connectivity. So I'll give you an example. If you're taking a package from Boston to San Diego by road, you're going to encounter a lot of dead zones along the way. Well, again, what I talked about with connectivity and the signal handoff for positioning, we can solve for that. But imagine now, you take those handoffs and you add a layer of AI onto it. So one of the cool things about Aware is that as you deploy devices and using our signal library, which is constantly refreshing, you can actually build that intelligence. So as you're coming to, let's say, the Midwest, the Dakotas, if you know that there's an area prone to dead zones, we can actually proactively choose which signal type to use to make sure that you guarantee connectivity and you don't miss a beat. Again, coming back to that end-to-end visibility solution, cold chain management story, and essentially creating an audit trail that you can reference. Now, I did want to talk a little bit more about the indoor location use cases. So we talked about that end-to-end journey, but what if we double-click into a warehouse? It's a point that has a lot of visibility gaps and a lot of challenges because, again, historically, anytime there's been location or positioning solutions, they've largely been GNSS-based or cellular-based. They don't have that hybrid intelligence. So as you go inside, this is where you can really combine private 5G networks that deliver low latency positioning. You can use existing infrastructure with Wi-Fi to deliver really accurate, even lane level accuracy or aisle level accuracy using your existing infrastructure. Now, another cool thing too is I talked a lot about, where is it? There we go. I talked a lot about visibility of goods in kind of open air environments, but what if we need that tracking down to the package level inside of a warehouse? This is, again, where we build sensors into the devices or give developers the opportunity to build sensors into the devices that detect light. So if you have unauthorized tampering, for example, if you have anything that questions that audit trail of your package from origin to destination, you can even do it at the package level depending on what you're tracking indoors.
That's very slowly. Pero,
There we go. All right. So the other thing I did want to mention and where the value of this connectivity in different location types really comes into play is,
I'm 5 degree.
lost my train of thought. Oh, the other part I did want to mention, though, is the cloud-to-cloud integration. So we know that you all out there might be using an existing ERP system. You might be using a current cloud. You might already be using some kind of analytics software. The last part about Qualcomm Aware that's really interesting too is that it can integrate with those cloud-based systems. So all those insights that you're getting from the device, the location, the condition monitoring, the positioning, you can actually ingest through our cloud into your partner clouds and take that actionable data in real time. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say now. All right. So historically, one of the other challenges with positioning has been the cost. It's been the ROI. And traditionally, people have used just a cellular tracker or just a GPS tracker. Part of the challenges historically with deploying connected intelligence solutions is that the ROI has not always been there. So the example I like to use is, what's the value of the asset that you're tracking? You need produce to be, stored cold to make sure that it's sold well in stores. But do you need to track every single tomato as it's being transported? Probably not. The value's not there. But if you're tracking a high value item, say, an organ or, a box of vaccines or a really high value item, then it's going to be in your best interest to make sure that item does not go missing or is ensured to be sold in a viable way without going bad at all stages of the journey. So what I wanted to say there is there's a different cost associated with deploying a GPS tracker versus cell-based tracker versus a Wi-Fi tracker versus a BLE tag. And one of the cool things about Aware that you're able to do is that you're able to pick and choose the location technology, the connectivity type, the sensors that you're building the devices with to create this really tailored solution that hasn't been possible before. That's really been one of the challenges with IoT deployments in the past. People have tried, but they haven't been successful because it's been a one-size-fits-all solution. The ROI hasn't been there. It's been too complex. The ecosystem's fragmented, and a lot of companies really don't have the expertise to do it, which is why we're really excited at Qualcomm that we're able to deploy and scale Aware. Don't think of it as just an individual tracker that I showed you. Don't think of it as even a family of trackers that we're going to sell you. Think of it as a developer and enterprise toolkit that combines best-in-class technology built on our chipsets, our vast ecosystem of hardware and software partners, a very rich location library and worldwide connectivity, all in a toolkit that you can use and deploy through customizable form factors depending on your use case in a way that's going to make sense for your bottom line. So you're not just deploying a square tracker that doesn't really solve for what you're trying to solve for, but you can have a really small tag that only uses Wi-Fi that's going to make it economically efficient for you guys to maintain visibility and control of your supply chains, take proactive action, and be less surprised by disruptions as they happen. So I know we're coming up on time. I know there's a lot that we can talk about with Qualcomm Aware. I'm sure there's some questions in the audience. The good news is the Qualcomm booth is literally 2 booths over that way. I'll be there after this, and I'd be happy to talk to you directly and answer any questions that you may have. So thanks everyone for coming out.
I just